We will reconvene the Budget Committee for the General Fund budget for Clackamas County for 2018-19. Next on the agenda is the Board of County Commissioners, County Admin, and looks like we've got several people presenting this, as long as we keep them healthy and in one shape there. Good, one piece. Okay. Who's going to lead off on this?
Good afternoon. I am not Laurel Buttman.
You don't quite look like her.
But I'm going to try to fill in for her as best I can. So this is the budget for the County Commission and County Administration, which comes up together as one budget. Our mission of the Board of County Commissioners, Board of County Commissioners provides governance and policy direction to county administration and departments so the public can experience responsive, effective government. County administration provides leadership, support, and problem-solving services to the Board of County Commissioners, the departments, and members of our community so they can provide and experience responsive, effective government. This is our departmental structure. You're probably all very familiar with it. Board of County Commissioners. We have two lines of business here in this program. One is the board itself. The other one is the Office of the County Administrator, with our County Administrator, Don Krupp. The County Administrator and County Council are the only employees directly appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. Under the Office of the County Administrator, we have six programs. Performance Clackamas, the Office of the County Administrator, which supports the County Administrator. BCC within County Administration, which is the functions that support you all, the Board of County Commissioners. Customer and Community Services, which addresses the ombudsman and community service work that we do. Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, run by my fellow Assistant County Administrator, Emma Wheatfall here. Also at the table with me is Mary Rathke, Board Clerk. It's always good to have someone at the table who knows
Where's my square?
what these numbers mean.
19.
You don't get one.
19?
Just kidding.
Oh, I got 19. I grabbed the wrong binder.
All right, got it. Okay, thank you.
Oh, which one?
19.
Okay. 19. Yeah, tab 19. Oh.
So the slide on the screen now is the three-year trend. You'll see that this year's budget is right at a 5% increase over last year's budget. It's actually 5.00. The proposed budget is about 50% general fund support and 50% allocated cost charges for services. You can see, like most departments, the bulk of our expenditures are for personal services. Materials and services are 8%, and then cost allocations that we pay, like other departments, pay out for facilities, finance, human resources, and technology services are about 1/4 of our budget. There's only one change this year in our FTE. We have 0.6. We have a part-time staff person. Julie Larson's been hired to assist with Performance Clackamas, our affordable housing and homelessness initiatives, our equity pilot area initiatives, and equity, diversity, and inclusion. That is the only personnel change between the board and the Office of the County Administrator. By line of business, pardon me, the BCC is about 44% of the expenditures. The County Administration, the Office of the County Administrator is about 56%. Here's our key results from our own strategic business plan. I mean, as you all know, the Office of the County Administrator is responsible for carrying out the board's strategic plan as well. But we have our own strategic business plan where we try to measure our results and how well we do providing services to the public, the departments, and the board itself. First result is the percentage of strategic results in the adopted county plan that were achieved or annually on target. We're at about 80% there of those that can be measured. Percentage of commission-managed departments with completed strategic business plans. Commission-managed departments are those that are under Don's direction and not run by independently elected officials. In fact, I think we are at 100% as of now. I want to note that by the end of next year, we will likely have all county departments within the Performance Clackamas framework. The sheriff's going through the process now, as I think you heard earlier this morning. The district attorney has indicated that his office intends to go through the process probably starting in the fall. That leaves the treasurer, justice court, and tourism and community affairs Cultural Affairs, TCA, as the only departments yet to go through the process. Percentage of the county budget tied to measurable customer results. We're at 83% now. We'll be at 98 next year with the sheriff, 98 or better. That's our target. The other three measures, we're at close to 100% on all of them, and they really relate to how we provide services to Don. Percentage of decisions that he can make on first presentation, that tracks how well we do in making sure the departments get the right information to Don in the first instance. Percentage of board policy session decisions that are tied to the strategic business plan. We're tracking our efforts at making sure that when departments come to the board with proposals, they have tied those proposals both to the board's overall plan and their own strategic business plan where possible. We're at 95%, I think, for this year. We'll try to be 100 next year. And finally, is a percentage reduction in EEO categories where females, veterans, and minorities are underrepresented. You'll see that we have a 60% reduction. The target for next year is an 80% reduction. Key performance and results. I want to note that the www.clackamas/performance page has now a dashboard that has results for almost all of the goals in the county strategic plan and some supportive measures from departments. We did a sort of soft open of that last week. We've got a few things to fill in, but it's up and running and available. All department business plans are also available on that page. And also on that page is a link to customer service and satisfaction measures where a number of departments are measuring customer service and satisfaction in real time with devices. That's updated weekly. That's on our main website as well. Emerging issues, I believe you heard all of these in Administrator Krupp's budget message. Maintaining and addressing adequate reserves for the PERS rate increases, the ongoing retirement wave. It's increased in pace. We're trying to keep up with recruitments and retain institutional knowledge. Our enterprise financial and human resources programs, information system are nearing obsolescence. Will need to be replaced or upgraded soon. New courthouse and planning for new facilities for the jail, emergency operations center, 911 call center. I think as Administrator Krupp indicated in his budget message, probably close to $1 billion in potential facilities needs over the next decade or two. That concludes our presentation.
Commissioner Bernard.
So, a few things. One is yesterday met with the governor about the Comcast refund, which I think her idea of putting that aside for PERS is a good idea. It's like extra money. And however, as long as we can retain it within the county, if we're going to give it to somebody else, I'm not so comfortable with that. So whether we add that to reserves or contingency, that's where I'd prefer to see that go. Then I did not realize this, but the grant program is actually a non-departmental fund, right?
What grant program?
Our internal grant committee.
The small grants?
Yes.
Yes, it's in
The
non-departmental.
ones that you guys give to the nonprofits.
So
Yes.
because I missed that point, I'm going to bring it up at this point, and that is I'd like to see that increased by at least 50,000. So that's this, and then later in July we intend on having a retreat, the BCC and you. Just want to talk about administration and where we are currently and what folks might be interested in talking about. And I look forward to that retreat. Paul has recommended it for quite a while. And I think having a small group somewhere, somewhere fun or pleasant, we could
Disneyland?
We could go to my barn.
You'd have to fight the chickens. Don't do that.
That's right. The chickens who lay eggs in the barn now. anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Other than that, I think the work you're doing, Dan, work you're doing, Emmett, and of course, Mary, Caroline, fantastic job. We talked a little while about, a desire to move the grant program into something else. I think it's key that the commission has that ability to invest. The only difference is that focusing on those hot areas, those areas of the map where the biggest risk to the county exists, and that's North Clackamas County on the border, and Colton and folks like that. I think the first grant we ever did was like to Colton, food. Maybe you probably remember better than I do, Caroline, but that was probably, that was really important to that small community. So we got to make sure we don't leave somebody behind that don't have those. But I think Colton is one of those areas in the map anyway. So anyway, that's all.
So how much is that grant fund right now? 250? And that was increased last year or year before last?
A couple of years ago, it was
Couple
increased
years.
from
Okay.
200.
I remember when we increased it, but I couldn't remember just which year it was. So thank you for that. Commissioner Humberson and then Mr. Magdalene.
H3S had made a request that the full $250,000 of grant funding only be awarded to H3S-related proposals. While I don't object to a certain amount of that being the focus of those grants, at the same time, I don't think that should be exclusively for H3S-related things. I do agree with an increase. I think it's time to do an increase. And I think the important thing about the grants is that, because I was looking at the measures that Dan was talking about, and yes, we want to tie most of what we do to Performance Clackamas, but there are things that are going to come up from the community that are not necessarily directly related to something that's in the plan going forward that we need to be able to respond to. And I think that the grant program does give us that opportunity to respond to things that might not have been considered otherwise. So I'm not looking for 100%, to be honest with you, because I think there are times when we need to be able to respond to things that may not have been on our radar. And the grant program, in a small way, does give us an opportunity to do some of that. So while some of it needs to be focused on H3S priorities, particularly the three key areas that we want to focus on, I don't want to see it exclusively for that. I think we do need to keep a broader perspective.
Well, H3S, Richard Swift, is involved in the
I understand.
reviewing the grants, so that's good input.
Okay?
Just don't want to see that be the only
I don't
place that
either.
it goes.
Mr. Magdalene and then Commissioner Savas.
I agree with Jim on the Comcast refund or whatever's coming. But Mark Gonzalez, can you tell us if if the county has a separate account within PERS?
A separate account, you mean a side account?
Well,
Yeah, I
I
didn't
guess the way is how to preserve the,
Independence of our PERS.
yeah, the independence of the PERS, the Comcast refund so it can be used or earmarked for PERS payment.
Or unfunded liability?
Yeah.
The county has never established a side account with PERS. We have been discussing how to use our reserved amounts for PERS in the last couple of years. We have taken a look at the newly established ability to create a side account with some support back from the PERS system. So far, we have not made any decisions regarding that. The Comcast money coming our direction, we have no real inkling as to how much of that is going to be available. The idea that some portion of it might be put toward our future PERS liability is of interest to us. And we'll continue to look at that, particularly as the numbers become clearer.
I think the governor said 25 cents out of every dollar would be matched. Isn't that what you heard yesterday, Mark?
That's-
The governor's
yeah, under the-
PERS
under the-
proposal? Yes.
And that's unusual.
It is.
It's the first
You know,
time
when you
coming
consider
in,
that,
yeah.
I can't recall what our unfunded actuarial liability looks like today.
It's 458 million, if I remember right.
The counties?
Yeah, they showed it on a chart.
I would have to go and verify that. I believe that's beyond what I recall. At any rate, our ability to make a dent in that with what we have in liquid assets to put into a fund like that is somewhat limited. And in discussions with other finance directors from around the state, we've taken a pretty hard look at what this program promises. It seems to be helpful, but not a solution for the future for PERS. The solution is 20 years down the line when the UAL drops pretty sharply. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sadas?
Very nice polite way of saying when us old people die, Mark.
I'm afraid I'm in that same crew.
Yes, this is so true. It is what it is.
Commissioner Sadas?
Okay, so question on the last page, or page 20. The jaws, if you will, or operating expenses, the delta between the expenditure line and the revenue line is what? Why are they so far apart?
So you got to remember, this is a general fund department, so kind of looking at it in terms of the jaws of death isn't really applicable in terms of financial projections. Or so you're just looking at the complement of general fund resources to the department, and also what we collect in the way of charges to other county departments as part of the indirect allocation plan. So, I mean, we'll always be able to balance the commissioner's office and county administrator's office budget, no matter what happens with those jaws.
Right. Well, I'm just kind of curious why the revenue line is even, I mean, if it's there, obviously, but why should it not just parallel the expenditure line?
You want me to take that? If I may, because these
Okay, I see.
activities are in the general fund, there's the revenue and expense only is equal after you consider the amount of the general fund support. So if you look down toward the bottom, the purple line, general fund support, you can see the progression in 15, 16. BCC and county admin together needed almost 2 million of general fund support. So their internally generated revenues and then their operating expense was short that much of balancing. In 16, 17, it was 1.8, 17, 18, just a little under 1.9, and for 18, 19, just about 2.1 million. So you can see the fluctuation there. It's in,
Right. Well, Tom pointed out adding the general fund support line to the operating revenue line will equal the red line
Balances it,
somewhat,
yeah.
balances out. But my question is, what revenue, well, another way is asking that, what is our revenue? What represents the blue line? Because we don't generate any revenue.
it's allocated costs.
Okay, thank you. All right. Very well. Next question. Dan, your first slide, as far as the measurable or performance measures. So what are we going to do to raise the bar? Or change the measurements, but I think we should really hold ourselves to a little bit higher standard. And it looks like there's room to do that.
I agree. I think any place where some of these are measures that were set a few years ago and we're about to hit them. In other words, number of departments with completed plans, done. Budget tied to results, done. The things where we are at 100% or close to 100% doesn't help us move the needle. So when we go back through our plan, what you're going to see in the next version of the plan are measures where we are seeking to improve our own performance. So we'll come back with that, because we do recognize that performance management should be always about improvement and seeking that next reasonable but achievable result.
Okay.
Ms. Fisher? Commissioner Fisher, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So question on on page 15, the equity, diversity, and inclusion budget, I see that there's less, it's not a whole lot less projected this year than last year, but it's a change of $12,000. And when we're operating on such a small budget, that's a pretty significant decrease. I'm just curious about the reason for that.
I think I can help with that. We actually shifted our direction this year. In prior years, we've committed a lot of dollars to training, but what we've needed is some additional staffing support. So when we looked at the budget this year, we trying to find where could we get money from. So out of my budget, we've allocated a portion of those dollars to be able to have Julie Larson come on board and provide some staffing resources for Dan and I. That has been a tremendous help. Both Dan and I do not have dedicated staff to us other than the great work that Mary and her staff does, which is really out of this world and extraordinary.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, but that's why there's that shift. Plus also too, we want to focus more on making sure that our management team here at Clackamas County has the necessary training that they need. We are actually, according to this, it's not necessarily spelled out here, but by June of 2019, we hope to have what we're calling Equitable Service Delivery Plans. So all of our, 22 to 23 departments by the end of June 2019 will actually look at areas where identify areas where there are inequities and come up with some remedies. So we need to reallocate those small dollars and use them as efficiently as we can. I've always said you go to war with the army that you have. We're doing the work that we have with the dollars that are made available to us. But that's been kind of like the reallocation of dollars there.
Okay, so it's all good.
It's all good.
Okay, that was my,
Thank you for
my
asking.
question.
Are there any other questions for any member of?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you very much for presenting the County Commission, County Administration budget.